Hi, and welcome to Web3 Unfiltered. This is a podcast where we move beyond the industry narratives and explore the real mechanics shaping digital markets, emerging sectors, and the strategies organizations use to grow in complex environments. I am your host, Holland's Victory Odabi. In many industries, growth is treated almost like a reflex. Now, companies monitor competitors, they track popular trends, and react quickly to whatever appears to be gaining momentum. When a new market emerges or a new market segment begins attracting attention, organizations rush in. They hope to catch a share of the opportunity before it disappears. But reactive growth often or rarely produces durable advantage. By the time a trend becomes visible to everyone, the most valuable positioning opportunities have often already been taken. The organizations that consistently expand into profitable markets tend to operate differently. They invest heavily in understanding the landscape around them, analyzing clients, competitors, and industry signals to identify opportunities while they are still forming. Now, that process is often referred to as market intelligence, and it requires a combination of research, pattern recognition, strategic discipline. My guest today works directly and precisely at that strategic edge. Joining me today is John Mason. He is the head of new business and sales development, specializing in tracking markets, clients, and competitors to uncover emerging opportunities, develop partnerships, and expand revenue streams. His work focuses on helping organizations move beyond reactive growth towards deliberate, intelligence-driven expansion. John, welcome to Web3 Unfiltered. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Glad to be here, and it's a very, very warm welcome introduction. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. You're very welcome to the show. John, before I begin, I'd like to ask my guests to talk a bit about themselves. So, very briefly, what is your story and how did you get involved in what you're doing right now?
What's my journey like? What's my story? So, I guess going back to when things began for me from a sales perspective, it would be about 13 years ago now. And throughout my sales career, I began to realize that there is more to simply selling than picking up the phone and closing deals. There's a lot to be said around the strategy and the development of business and relationships, so that you can proactively predict the revenue streams for businesses. So after about a decade as being the individual contributor and seller, I then moved into leadership. And now 3 years later, I founded my own company, and I am responsible for generating revenue for 2 companies and my own.
Really amazing story, John. Well done. I love what you do, and it's completely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, John, many organizations, I believe, approach growth reactively. When a competitor launches something new or a market trend gains attention, companies rush to follow. While this behavior may protect short-term competitiveness, it often places businesses behind the curve. Strategic expansion usually requires a different mindset, one built on studying markets carefully, identifying signals early, and positioning a company before opportunities become crowded. So, John, in your experience, why do so many companies fall into reactive growth rather than building deliberate market strategies?
I think it's required. It's a requirement of companies to be able to be proactive and seeking out new markets and new developments. Those that are reactive tend to, like you say, as it says in the name, react. And more often than not, by the time others are aware about it, it's probably too late. There is such a thing as going too early, but likewise, there's such a thing about going too late. I think businesses need to take more of a adaptive approach to innovation and to identifying those new markets and those new changes to stay ahead of the curve. There are plenty of businesses around the world, Coca-Cola and Ford, for example, that have been around for over 100 years. They were companies that weren't just reactive, they were proactive, and they were willing to innovate, adapt, and change. I think that's where businesses need to spend more time and focus, and they will reap the rewards of that benefit.
Well, thank you so much for answering that so concisely. Now, John, I understand that most companies gather large amounts of information about customers and competitors and industry trends, but collecting information alone does not create insights. Without a structured approach, data becomes noise rather than intelligence. Disciplined markets intelligence transforms scattered information into strategic direction. So, John, what does effective market intelligence actually look like inside an organization?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question. I think it can be very easy to follow, the basic level of intelligence that you gather. More often than not, for example, with politics, it will be a case of looking at the polls and assuming that there's going to be a victory here or a victory there. To do good market intelligence, you need to grab a wide set of data, and you need someone within the business to be able to challenge the data and to ask the questions. I think that's where the biggest area of innovation comes, and from market insights, it's the ability to ask questions and ask why, probe further, look at causation and correlation, and try not to see things through rose-tinted glasses or through blinkered eyes, so that you are able to make those objective decisions, and not just be happy the data says what you want it to say the moment it does.
Brilliant, John. If I understand you correctly, I think what you're describing is opportunity mapping. And I know it focuses on recognizing emerging demands before it becomes obvious. Instead of simply analyzing existing markets, companies must watch how industries evolve, how customer needs change, and where new intersections between sectors begin to appear. Now, businesses that develop this capability often position themselves early enough to establish credibility and partnerships ahead of competitors. So, John, what signals or frameworks help identify emerging opportunities before the broader market recognizes them?
Oh, that's a great question. I think if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But there is a lot to be said in anecdotal lessons throughout history, is that more often than not, the innovation and the discovery of a new trend or a new emerging market comes by accident. Sometimes you stumble across a new product, a new vertical, a new market, a new need, based on an accident. If we were to look at how penicillin was created in the world, it was created because the scientists left their dishes over out and mold grew. So I think it's the ability to innovate that comes first. But once that innovation has happened, it's then the ability to analyze whether or not you have something that has real applications for real clients, real customers. And if that is the case, can you build a scalable business from this so that you're able to generate revenue?
You are absolutely right. If it were that easy, then everyone else would be doing it. So, John, I believe timing is also one of the hardest aspects of strategic expansion. Entering a market too early can waste resources if demand has not yet matured. And waiting too long can mean competing in a crowded space where differentiation is difficult. But understanding when to move is therefore a critical skill and strategic decision. So, John, how do organizations determine the right moments to enter a new market or sector?
I think it's really important to pull the thoughts, the opinions, the experiences of your senior leadership team, pull those resources so that you can understand the opportunity ahead. There is an adoption curve that happens in business, it happens in life as well. There will be those that are always going to go first and adopt the thing that you put out there. There will be those that eventually do start to come on board before the curve reaches its peak, and starts to come down the end for those late adopters before then you get towards the end with the laggards. If you go too early, you run the risk of putting in a big amount of capital investment and having to wait to reap the reward. And if you go too late, like you said, you could miss the boat as such. I think it's really important that you recognize it's not about timing the market, if you will. It's about the time spent in the market. If you're waiting for that one big break and you're trying to time it perfectly, you've got a greatest chance of fail. But if you are continuously creating new ideas and innovating as a business, and you're constantly trying to launch a new product, a new service, a new module, a new upgrade, a new market, a new territory, a new country, then you're going to get some of them right, and the ones that you don't most likely will still be profitable. But if you sit there waiting to try and get the perfect timing, more than likely you will fail and fall into the later category.
Wow. So it's not just about timing, it's about the time spent in the market. If you're waiting for the right opportunity, then your competitors might just come around and swoop in and take the chance for you. Well, competition is often broader than most people realize, or most companies realize. I believe many organizations only analyze direct competitors, but threats and opportunities frequently come from adjacent industries or alternative solutions that address the same problem. A wider view of competition helps organizations understand where it might emerge. So, John, how should companies analyze competition beyond the obvious players in their sector?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. Competition is healthy, especially in a consumer world. When you're looking to buy something, it's not uncommon in a retail park for there to be, 2 or 3 fast food chains that are in competition with each other, because statistically they are more likely to all do better than if there was only one and there was no choice. But how would a company look to break away from the norm and to seek out new ways of generating revenues and profits, and spotting either other competitions or other markets? I think a really good example of how that has been done and lessons that can be learned from others is about where you position yourself within the market. So quite famously, the large car brands of the world, sort of your Rolls-Royce, your Maserati, etc., they realized if they were exhibiting at car trade shows, then they would be the most expensive vehicle in the room. However, if they were to change the market in which they were to advertise their product, for example, at boat shows or jet shows, then they now are the most, impulse buy of products out there. A £200,000 Rolls Royce looks fairly cost effective against a £30 million yacht or a £30 million jet. So it's that ability to spot gaps in the market where you can take yourself out of the competition and put yourself into a different pool where you're able to potentially reap the benefits and generate those ROIs.
Well said, John. Very brilliant. Another issue I have realized that many businesses encounter is vanity growth. The expansion that appears impressive but does not translate into meaningful revenue or long-term positioning. Strategic growth, by contrast, it focuses on opportunities that produce meaningful value. Strategic growth, by contrast, focuses on opportunities that produce meaningful and measurable value. So, John, in your experience, what warning signs do you think what warning signs suggest that a company is pursuing growth without a strong strategic foundation?
I think a company needs to understand the why. Why would you be going for that strategic growth? And it's important to look at others and learn the lessons. It can be very easy to fall foul of drinking your own Kool-Aid, as they would say, and believing that you are the best, and no matter where you expand, you're going to be successful. It's also important to identify that others may have tried before you. Where did they go right? Where did they go wrong? I've heard the saying, a wise man learns from the mistake of others, and the wisest man learns from their successes too. I think that's really important to avoid the pitfalls of vanity expansion and vanity growth, because there are times in which vanity is important. So if you were to take Oxford Street in the United Kingdom, in London, if you're at Oxford Circus, a lot of the stores there cost a huge amount for square footage, but it is an icon. It is a status symbol to say that you have a store on that street, and it's almost a different budget that you're using. You can put your marketing budget goes towards its operating costs. But if you were a brand new shop and you were going to open your only store in the United Kingdom on Oxford Circus in London, that probably would be a vanity project and one that wouldn't reap the rewards.
Really great examples there, John. Talking about partnerships, I believe that they are often presented as a fast way to expand into new markets. However, many partnerships fail because they are based more on visibility than real strategic alignment. Effective partnerships require clear objectives, complementary capabilities, and measurable outcomes. So, John, in your experience, what distinguishes a genuine strategic partnership from one that exists mainly for, let's say, optics?
I think the ones that are created mainly for optics are quite easily read by the client, the end customer. It can be very easy to notice that something has been shoehorned in. When films have strategic partnerships and then they are purposely putting brands in their films and it doesn't look natural, it becomes very apparent and potentially off-putting. The partnerships that are real are the ones that feel genuine. They would have synergy between the products and brands. It would make sense for the customer for them to line up. A real recent one that I've seen actually in the United Kingdom is there is a protein bar company called Grenade, and there is a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a food supplement drink, energy drink and cognitive function drink called Newtonic, and those two have joined forces, and it makes sense. They are two companies that have started out fairly small. They have similar strategies for attacking their markets. Their branding appears to align, and it just makes sense. That's an example of when it's done really, really well. But if Coca-Cola and Oreo were to do a crossover, which they did do, there was an Oreo flavored Coca-Cola drink not long ago, it just doesn't make sense. That's more of a novelty. Yes, I did try that drink. It tasted weird. It's probably done its purpose from a marketing perspective. Coca-Cola and Oreo do have some big push and some big sway, but it didn't make as much sense as, for example, Grenade and Newtonic. So I think companies, going back to the vanity conversation, they need to be wary of what they think the customer wants and actually listen to what the customer wants.
Really, really interesting, John. Let's talk about compatibility, like compatibility between organizations. I believe it's another key factor. Even when companies share similar goals, differences in culture, incentives, or execution can prevent partnerships from delivering results, tangible results. Careful evaluation, therefore, is essential before committing to collaboration. But then I'd like you to evaluate or expatiate more on that. What factors determine whether two organizations are truly compatible partners?
Yeah, I think it's It's important to take lessons from life. They say that opposites attract, two wrongs don't make a right, etc., etc. Everything could be compatible on paper, but in reality it's not. And everything could be incompatible on paper, but in reality it works. I think marriage in life is a great example of that. So I believe with all the due diligence in the world, that the compatibility of two brands and their idea to partner together and work together can come just down to a feeling, something which is maybe not necessarily measurable, something that just lives in the marketing, marketing sphere of the world, where it just feels right or looks right. But that's not to say you can skip the due diligence. That's still worth doing, but sometimes you got to go with your gut.
Well said, John. Well said. Now, John, emerging markets introduce additional uncertainty. Industries may still be forming, regulations may be evolving, and demand may not yet be fully defined. Now, in these conditions, companies must balance speed with strategic discipline. How do you think organizations should approach opportunity mapping when the market itself is still evolving?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and there's a lot that can be unpicked there. Emerging markets and emerging companies by nature are volatile. Things can go very well or very wrong very quickly. So there's a huge amount of risk and reward balancing going on. If you were to create a new product or a new service in a new market, there becomes a chicken and an egg scenario. You need to make the sales in order to enhance the product or service, but you need a good product or service in order to make the sales. And there's a fine line between what you do with the capital or the recurring revenue that you generate, and how you put that back into the business to push forward for growth. And there are many gurus, experts, consultants, Dragon Den type people in the world that can give you all the advice in the world. But ultimately, ensure that your senior leadership team around you are a diverse set of experienced heads, people that have experienced different things in the world, different aspects of business, have different personality types. And the chances are you will go far and you will be able to succeed and innovate, versus if you had a whole senior leadership team of just 5 people that thought the same and did the same. You're either going to make it or not. There will be no trepidation, there'll be no grey area. It will instantly work or it won't. So variety is the spice of life when it comes to selecting your SLT and your board to ensure that the companies that work within emerging markets have the ability to grow and to thrive.
Wow, thank you so much, John. Thank you so much. Now, ultimately, I believe companies that consistently discover profitable opportunities tend to share similar mindsets. They invest time studying markets deeply and avoid the pressure to chase every trend. Now, this disciplined approach often allows them to identify opportunities earlier than competitors. So, John, before we wrap up the episode, what mindset shifts helps companies move from chasing opportunities to identifying them early?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question to end the episode on. I think it comes down to starting with why. Start with Why is a fantastic book by an author called Simon Sinek. A business needs to make sure it starts with its why it exists and who it's there to serve, and why do we get out of bed in the morning to work for them. Then you will understand whether or not you are chasing opportunities or whether or not you are strategically carving out your place in the world. Because when you've got a brand new business, a brand new idea, a brand new innovation, a brand new market, you can try to sell your service, your product to anyone that will pay for it. But if you focus on your niche and you identify why the business exists and the purpose, create that crazy audacious goal, break it down to objective and key results for your senior leadership team, for your managers, for your individuals, then you'll be able to, almost like a sniper, focus on an exact target and pinpoint the direction of travel, versus the scattergun approach, like a shotgun of just going, I'll try a little bit of everything everywhere. So that is where I think businesses can do well with targeted, selected opportunities as opposed to chasing trends.
So, John, the key takeaway here is focus. One needs to focus on a particular niche within an industry, or focus on a particular industry alone. And when they do that, they'll be able to spot opportunities early because their entire concentration is on that. It's in that area. Wow, that is one lesson we'll be taking away from this episode today. So, John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your presence here and insight shared on Web3 Unfiltered. Before we wrap up the episode, do you have any final notes for our listeners?
Well, it's been a pleasure to be on the show. I hope your listeners and your audience have gained some value from it, and it's been worth their time to listen. I'm more than happy to connect with anyone that is interested in what I do, my thoughts. They want to share insights over a direct message or anything like that. They can find me on LinkedIn. It's where I'm most active. My profile is John J Mason 88. So that's JOHNJMASON 88. And I look forward to speaking with anyone that comes my way.
Yeah, all right. So I believe at the end of this episode, we understand now that strategic growth rarely comes from or happens by accident. It comes from studying markets carefully, recognizing emerging opportunities, and positioning a business before competition intensifies. John Mason has shared a lot of insights and opportunities with us today. To connect with John, search for John Mason on LinkedIn. That's all for today on this episode of Web3 Unfiltered. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep building.